Good morning, everyone. It's 9:30. I will call this meeting to order and ask that we stand for a moment of silent reflection on the 75th anniversary of D-Day. I believe it's appropriate. Thank you. I would at this time ask for a rise and report from our in-camera session.
Thank you, Warden. Two matters to report from the in-camera session and one matter to report in terms of council relations. In terms of the in-camera session, council did adopt its in-camera minutes of its meeting of May 1st, 2019. And then secondly, council met, discussed its ongoing appeal over its official plan and provided further instructions in regards to that appeal to its outside solicitor, Mr. Stephen D'Agostino. In terms of council relations, I did receive from Councillor Cook a notice of conflict of interest with respect to item number 8 in today's agenda. And in brief, the conflict pertains to the fact that his spouse is employed with an agency that benefits from United Way funding. That's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a special morning here. We have a presentation to be made. I'd like to recognize the career of Gayle Montgomery, our Circles coordinator with the County of Lambton. Gayle received the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association Lifetime Achievement Award at the OMSSA Leadership Symposium in Thunder Bay on May 13th. This award recognizes the long-standing contributions of exceptional OMSSA members who have recently retired or are soon to retire. Gayle has had a remarkable 36-year career in human services, with 30 of those years working in the County of Lambton Social Services Division. Gayle began her career at the Women's Interval Home of Sarnia-Lambton in 1984 before joining the County of Lambton Social Services in 1990. She has held numerous positions within the county, including General Welfare Caseworker, Income Support Supervisor, Special Projects, Family Support Supervisor, Employment Supervisor, and Circles Canada Coordinator and National Recruiter. Gayle's passion for Dr. Ruby Payne's Bridges Out of Poverty research led to the delivery of 16 years of training to thousands throughout Ontario. Her courageous leadership resulted in the launch of the first Canadian Circles in 2009. Gayle has been the face and driving force behind Circles for over 10 years, and her efforts were instrumental in the County of Lambton becoming Circles Canada. Gayle's contributions within social services were instrumental in shifting perspectives of how we see, treat, interact, and support individuals experiencing poverty. She is a trailblazing professional that has been dedicated to improving systems, policy reform, and grassroots community approaches with the genuine hope of supporting people for a better future. Not only has her work had profound impacts within systems, she has also touched so many lives, making a difference one person at a time. In recognition of this contribution, Megan Humphreys, a Circle leader and local Indigenous artist, has created an artistic gift that we'd like to now present to Gayle. Please join me in thanking and congratulating Gayle.
gifts for you. I wasn't sure which one to do, so I just did both. So this is the first one.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Megan, that's beautiful. This way. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay, is your circles medallion?
Oh, yes. That's incredible, right? It's the circle logo. Fabulous. You're very talented. Oh, my goodness.
My
That's
high-tech
beautiful.
waterproofing. So this is the second one that
Wow.
I've created. Like, full bag.
So much.
So there's a little thing that I need to tell you about this dream catcher. So blue is, our circle's color, as well as it's the color of truth. And I feel that that is what you represent, and that is what you help to teach everybody. So the crane family is symbolic as the bird of leadership. I wrote it down so don't forget. This particular bird I chose to use is the great blue heron. A person who is honored with these specific feathers is recognized as a true leader, one who walks the path of leadership with dedication and honor, lifting those around you to help us, teaching us to become leaders and embracing our own personal gifts. So that's your dream catcher, and use the two feathers up here. Those represent your two children. And then I used 3 beads on each of those, and those represent our 3 circles that we have in Sarnia. And then there are 10 feathers at the bottom, and those represent 10 years of truth.
Thank you so much, Megan.
So how about a certificate from the county with a thank you and congratulations?
Thank you so much. It all started here. If it hadn't been for the support of County Council, Circles talks about one of the main tenets is to embrace and actually exploit the power of a caring community. And so it's been a privilege and an honor to be part of this community for the last 30 years, and the support of the champions amongst you. And it's just been a great privilege. And I feel very blessed to have had this career, and I feel very blessed to be going home today and just hanging out. So it's been a privilege, and I thank each and every one of you so much, and especially you, Megan. Congratulations, and good luck with the rest of your journey. Thank you.
Item number 8, we have one delegation, and I would call on a motion to allow the delegations within the rail. Councillor Napper and Deputy Warden Marriott. All in favor of that? That's carried. And I call David Brown, Executive Director for United Way of Sarnia. Come forth. Where's your button on your mic?
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to address council this morning. My thanks to Councillor Bird and to Councillor Stark for passing the motion to have me speak today. Just as a matter of record, I'm happy to address the council at any time on any topic. We certainly view the County of Lambton as huge, very important partners in helping make this community so great. I know I'm asked to speak specifically about the United Way senior funding, particularly how it may or does affect the Lambton seniors, as well as going forward, what our plans are in our community. 30% of our funding right now is used for seniors programming, which has been increasing in each of the last 3-year funding cycles. Our main objectives is to prevent falls, improve safety in the home, improving nutrition and overall health, and supporting independence through economic and social well-being and inclusion. This is part of our answer to affordable housing for seniors in our community. Why not make it more affordable for seniors to live in homes that they already own? And if we can reduce those costs to keep house maintenance upkept, as well as transportation services, nutrition through Meals on Wheels, etc., then that's our strategy to do that, not just in Sarnia, but throughout Lambton County. You can see at the bottom there a list of the funded agencies that address seniors specifically: Red Cross, CNIB, Family Counseling Center, Lambton Elderly Outreach, March of Dimes Canada, New Beginnings, ABI Stroke Recovery, Salvation Army, and the VON. Currently, in the next 3 years, the Lambton Seniors is not currently one of our funded agencies. Previously, the Lambton Seniors was funded $35,200 annually by the United Way for over $105,000 over the last 3-year term. The United Way has stressed to that agency, and this is completely public information, over the last 2.5 years that the Lambton Seniors Association must do a means test for those seniors who are on low income, that they be served first, and that those services be somewhat subsidized. We weren't interested in providing low-cost maintenance for a pensioner who goes to Florida for 3 or 4 months, or low-cost maintenance for somebody who has a home on Lakeshore in Sarnia. We wanted to help those seniors specifically who are in our lower income neighborhoods throughout Lambton County. We even developed a means test for the Lambton Seniors Association to follow. The same types of mean tests that we asked from Red Cross and Lambton Elderly Outreach for their Meals on Wheels subsidies, or for the VON for their foot care subsidies, transportation, March of Dimes, and others that have those kinds of subsidies that make it more affordable for people and families to live in their own homes. We're flatly refused every time during our negotiations with the Lambton Seniors. We were told first come, first served. That is not consistent with the United Way of Sarnia-Lambton's values in terms of helping those who are most vulnerable in our community. So as a result, that agency was cut, eliminated from our funded agency family. The United Way instead has increased funding to transportation services to $58,000 to the Red Cross in Sarnia, and another $58,000 to LAO in rural Lambton. You can see that's a 5% increase in Sarnia, a 9% increase in funding for the rural. We've expanded our subsidized Meals on Wheels to rural Lambton for the first time. In fact, since then, in the last 3 or 4 months, LEO has experienced a 35% increase in requests for meals, indicating to us that there's a true need for those nutritious Meals on Wheels in our community. Not only are they nutritious, but they also meet their own dietary requirements of those seniors. We've increased funding for the Homeward Bound program in North Lambton. That's a program for seniors or those living alone who are discharged from the hospital, and maybe after 1 or 2 days or a longer period of time, they get transportation from the hospital to their home, regardless how remote they are. They get a number of hot Meals on Wheels, a number of frozen Meals on Wheels, so many hours of homemaking services, etc., to make that transition from hospital to home seamless and as best case possible for the seniors. We've also increased our funding for the distress line and TelCheck by 2%, which helps decrease isolation and depression amongst the most remote areas of our community. And by 20%, we've increased funding for the ABI, which is acquired brain injury, New Beginnings, and stroke recovery. And they've done some amazing work with those folks who've had strokes or brain injuries and their families. So in all of our increases in funding is consistent to those 3 top outcomes. On a side point, while it was not part of our decision, we learned that the agency used Lambton Seniors' dollars for non-agreed purposes. In other words, even though we fund 18 local agencies, they provide 36 funded programs. And it's those programs specifically that we fund. We may have an agency like the Canadian Mental Health, for example, where we may fund only 1% of their overall budget. But it might be 75% of one or two programs that they provide. So we are very specific on the programs that we're funding so we can be as transparent as possible to our donors, while at the same time measure the effectiveness using key performance indicators and other outcome measures to make sure that we're getting the best value that we can. As I mentioned, we found out that that agency is not spending that money exclusively on the Handyman, Handywoman program, other programs such as the Seniors Fair, which is a huge violation of our contract. The Lambton Seniors Association was also offered funding by myself personally to the President to take them to the end of their current lease, which is in August 2019. We did not want the agency, the board of directors, et cetera, to be on the hook for any outstanding commitments they had beyond the contract. So we did offer them continuing funding until the end of their lease in Sarnia, and to this point I've heard no reply. The other point I wanted to make is our Day of Caring is growing more and more every year. Most United Ways across North America will have a campaign kickoff breakfast or a barbecue or some kind of an event. What we do in Sarnia-Lambton to cut costs, but while at the same time provide service to those people who need it in our community, is we provide Day of Caring, which is an annual event, part of our campaign kickoff, whereby 200 to 250 people are released from their work site. It could be employees from Imperial or from Shell or from CBSA, provincial government, and so on, to help do jobs in the community that need to be done. 20% of these jobs are done in rural Lambton, and half of them are done at the homes of seniors. They could be cleaning gutters, repairing decks, decluttering, preparing homes for the winter, building small accessibility ramps, etc. That's just an example of what we're doing. And more companies, because of turnarounds, are asking us to set up days of caring outside of the typical campaign period. So we're continuing to do more and more of that kind of thing, as well as there's more competition for the Lambton Seniors programs. Habitat for Humanity, as you know, are doing it. Lambton Elderly Outreach are. When we first started funding the Lambton Seniors Handyman, Handywoman program, they were the only game in town that provided that kind of service for seniors in our community. There is now more of that, and certainly, as I pointed out, the growth of our Day of Caring. I should mention, too, that we also do other jobs outside of just for seniors in Lambton County, including work at LCDS and some of their locations throughout Lambton. This is done for the seniors and for the agencies at no cost. And it's done for those seniors specifically who have very limited income. Many of them are referred to us by the agencies who are already providing Meals on Wheels or transportation and whatnot. But they know that the house is in need of repair, and the resident is not in a position to pay for that. So that's where we came in there. That's a very brief illustration of almost a year's work in terms of determining how and where our campaign dollars will be spent. I'm happy to answer any questions any of you have regarding that. But I also wanted to point out and remind you, this is why I came to this council in early February. Going forward, we need to find new employees, more employee campaigns, so that we can continue to do this kind of work and continue to expand our funding in rural Lambton. We know, for example, that the seniors population is only going to grow. And that 30%, that slice of the pie is not enough. So we need access to some of Lambton County's largest employers, which includes the County of Lambton, to provide an opportunity for us to do an industry-like employee campaign with payroll deduction and with presentations, so we can explain to the employees how and where their dollars are working in the community, and how they're working with the funding decisions and the programming that the County of Lambton is already providing. Are there any questions any of you may have?
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions? An update on what's going on? I think that was the purpose of you coming back, just to let us, make us all aware of what United Way is doing. So I want to thank you for that. We should have a motion to receive this information. Councillor Hand, Councillor Bean, any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. The update. Item number 9 is the minutes of council open session dated May 1st. A mover, Councillor Miller, and a seconder, Councillor Rombouts. Any questions regarding the minutes? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item number 10 is correspondence. We have one item of correspondence regarding the Ontario Good Roads Association and Roma. There's the recommendation that be received. Councillor Loosely.
Yes, I'd like to recommend, and I'd like to move that we support the resolution from the town of Petrolia, and I'd like to speak to that if I receive a seconder.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Stark. Councillor Loosely.
I think, Mr. Warden, the concern for the town of Petrolia, I think, was a couple things. One is the idea of the cost of going to 2 conferences when funds are limited in a small town. And I think the other things, they felt that maybe they could even extend it a day, but to try and work together to just have one conference. I know they used to be combined and separated, and maybe nothing will happen from this, but I think the council felt that we should at least state that we'd like to see them try and get together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? All in favor of the recommendation to support this? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Information reports regarding the Intelligent Sarnia-Lambton Strategic Plan. Item A, the strategic plan has been placed on our desk today. This is a document that will be taken with us next week to New York City and is being presented. Part of what we have to put together. We were fortunate to get the grant from Libro to fund this strategic plan. So I would like a motion that we adopt this plan and move forward with items in it. Councillor White and Councillor Cook. Any questions regarding that? Councillor White.
Just a comment. Thank you, Warden Weber, and apologize for having to do this here, but I'll forget if I don't. Just page 11 of the plan in the grade area, there's a typo. I just
Thank you, Mr. Warden. There were a number of typos in this plan, unfortunately, and they've all been corrected as of, I think, 5 o'clock last night. We had 4 different versions of it fly through. We were just anxious to get something in front of the councilors so they could appreciate what's in there and understand part of the process. So thank you for pointing that out. I think we've got them.
This is it's a fresh plan. Any other questions? Motion to adopt it. Councillor Arnold.
Just a comment, Mr. Warden and members of County Council. I continue to have an identity crisis when I read this, and I see on page 10 that Sarnia-Lambton consists of 11 local municipalities plus the county. Well, I don't know where Sarnia-Lambton has come from, other than the fact that people have adopted that as a community name-calling for us all, but I'm still an independent municipality, and I think most of us are here, the 11. The county is the overarching, and it's not Sarnia. No offense to Sarnia, they're great neighbors for the most part, and the people there are all wonderful, by the way. But I just, when I read this, if it had said something like the Sarnia-Lambton Intelligent Strategic Plan Committee is made up of the 11 municipalities and even named them, I wouldn't have felt like I had as big of identity crisis as I do. And it's something that myself and many of us in St. Clair Township, we have this issue all the time. Whether it's where our industries are located, it seems like Sarnia always is part of that Sarnia-Lambton thing and not St. Clair. So it's an odd thing for me when I read the strategic plan, and if it's part of the county system, it should say it's part of the county system, not Sarnia-Lambton. And that's just a comment from me.
Point taken. Understood. Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item number B for information is regarding recent alternate member appointments. We need a motion for that. Just a motion to receive that and filed. Councillor Rumbouts, Councillor Loosley. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. We have a corporate services division. There's a motion regarding amendments to procedure bylaw 33, committee PM meeting and inaugural meeting start times. We had the discussion moved by Councillor Bradley that we approve those recommendations. Second by Councillor Bean. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 13 is the committee minutes, the AM committee minutes. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Warden Weber. Members of the County Council, I present the committee morning minutes dated May the 15th, 2019 for your perusal and hopefully adoption.
Item number 1 is correspondence. Item number 2, information received. Item number 3 regarding tipping fee exemption. Item number 4, the Bonnie Doon redevelopment site. Councillor Napper.
Thank you very much, Warden Weber. I have problems with this. I was pretty mad when I read it, but a courtesy call to our office would have addressed this. Do we have to have a report? We got 2 planning departments. Is there no interaction? Is it got to come to get a full report? I just don't understand the gist of all this, and I guess maybe somebody could explain it to me.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there do you want to have a separate motion dealing with this, or any other comments on that? Councillor Napper.
If I could get a seconder, I'd move that it be deleted from the minutes.
Is there a seconder for that to, basically, I don't know whether you delete it from the minutes or it would be a deny that or change the committee's decision to have a report. And you can't change that decision, but we can vote on a different motion to have it not proceed. You're moving that the staff report not be requested. Okay. What is the procedure here, Stefan, as far as to change the? Okay. So we'll go through the rest of it. If there's no other issues, we can pass all the other issues. If someone would like to have this discussed at the end, we'll vote on it separately. Item number 5, this is asking for a staff report on housing policies. Public Health Services Division, number 6, correspondence. Number 7, information reports. Number 8 was a tabled motion that was lifted. Number 9 is a mutual agreement. Number 10 is developing a strategic team and a striking committee for that. Cultural Services correspondence, number 11. Number 12, information reports. And adjournment. Number 13 is we want to approve the agenda. What's the okay. So we can go and approve 1 to 13 with the exception of number 4, and we would consider it a separate motion. So, Councillor Arnold, would you?
Thank you, Warden Weber. I'll move this day's minutes with the exception of item number 4, and we're going to set it aside to have that discussion and motion after.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor White? Any questions? All in favor of that? That is carried. Now we'll go back and deal with item number 4. How does that get moved now? We've approved all the other ones, so it would be to consider that number 4. Yeah. Right. So number 4 is here for discussion, and we'll want any more discussion on that. If not, we'll just vote on it whether it gets approved or defeated.
I would ask for a recorded vote, Mr. Warden.
Okay, Councillor Bradley has asked for a recorded vote. Any other discussion? Councillor Rombaut.
For the benefit of those in the PM committee, could we get a little bit of background on this topic, please?
Okay. Who would like to speak to that? Councillor Bradley.
It was my motion, and it was brought about because residents of Plimpton, Wyoming, and some commercial interests in the city had asked me about this particular project. They were particularly questioning the fact the golf course is closed, but this new operation was going to open up as an accessory use. And that was the question. So all I'll ask for is a very brief report on just what was occurring there and why that was occurring.
Okay. Does that explain it? Any other questions or comments? I would, it's been asked for a recorded vote. Councillor Napper, you have a question?
I don't believe we've had an official application. I'll check with the planning department on this, but I don't think Plimpton, Wyoming's had an official application. There's been talks on it, but there's been no official application.
Okay. So, Councillor Stark.
Yeah, as seconder of the motion, and I happen to be by this particular facility last week, and it remains dormant, as Councillor Bradley indicated. And the report may be as simple as an application is pending or an application is expected, but that's what the report may be as simple as that. But I too have received requests relative to competitors for this particular facility, and that's why the request for the report was initiated.
Okay. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Warden Weber. I guess my question would have been back to the municipality itself and see what the status was. Because the county is overarching, but the guys that have the development in their area are the ones that would know exactly what's going on before the county ever would, as far as if there's a pending application or whatever the status was. And I guess this just comes back to working with each other as equals, that we would contact that office and whether it be through a motion of our local municipalities or what. So I just, I'm curious as to why that, if it was done, maybe it has been done, I don't know, or why it hasn't been done that way. that you would go back to the original municipality that would entertain that application, because the county isn't the one that would necessarily get it. Well, they wouldn't get it first. They'd be copied as you move through the process. So I'm just wondering if that was already done.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the... Yeah, just for clarification, if you vote in favor, you are in favor of the vote or the motion as presented. If you vote opposed, that would stop a staff report for that project.
Wouldn't it be the other way around? The motion is to delete. So if you want to delete the motion, you would vote yes. I don't mean to do this to you, but...
The motion is carried. So if, my understanding, you vote opposed to the motion would defeat it. The motion is carried in the report, so a motion to oppose the motion would defeat it.
Okay, I'm not...
If you vote yes, it stands as it is.
Not trying to be difficult, but that motion was never voted on by county council.
That's
You
right.
exempted it from the minutes.
If I may, Mr. Warden, and you're exactly right. You vote in favor of, or as presented, you vote in favor of having the report. And if you vote no, you're voting against the report. The way this thing is written, because this is the motion we're voting on right now. But I didn't hear that motion.
Is that,
I just heard that this is the motion we're considering as number
we're
4.
considering number 4. We're voting to approve number 4
Or not.
deny number 4. And I would call on the clerk to read that, starting with,
order?
Council.
Just point of order, do we have a seconder? If not, I'll second it, just to get it on the table.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
So Councilor Bradley, you're correct, because at one point in time, there was a discussion about possible deletion, and rather to lead into confusion, given that there's minutes that you're voting on, number 4 was simply carved out to be addressed separately. So now, under this vote, which is a recorded vote, as I understand from Councilor Bradley, if you vote in favor of it, you're voting for the minutes number 4 as drafted. If you vote against it, you're voting against soliciting the report that's being required. The reason we went that route was to simplify it so that we don't get into double motions or whatnot.
Okay, and we're starting the vote, recorded vote with Councillor Ferguson.
Councillor Ferguson? No. Councillor Hand? No. Councillor Loosely? Opposed. Councillor Marriott? No. Councillor Miller? Opposed. Councillor Napper? No. Councillor Rombouts? No. Councillor Stark? Yes. Councillor Bean? No. Warden Weaver?
No.
Councillor White? Councillor Arnold? Councillor Byrd? Councillor Boucher? Sorry, he's absent. Councillor Bradley? Councillor Broad? Councillor Cook? The motion is defeated.
Thank you. I believe that is all for the AM committee. PM committee minutes. Councillor Bean.
Thank you, Warden, members of County Council. The PM committee met on May 15th, 2019 at 11 a.m. in the morning, and I present these minutes for your approval.
Okay. Long-term care division, item 1, information reports received. Item number 2, long-term care home dates and events received. Corporate Service Division, item 3, a policy for surplus lands be adopted. Finance, Facilities, and Court Services, item 4, correspondence. Item 5, regarding correspondence of follow-up information regarded going forward. Item number 6, information reports to receive and file. Reports requiring a motion. Number 7, mitigation strategies for the provincial grants. Other business, item number 8 is regarding a strategic team regarding intergovernmental relationships and a striking committee. Social Services Division number 9, information reports. Their business was start time, and adjournment is number 10. Councillor Bean.
I move the minutes as read.
Okay. Seconder for that, Councillor Miller. Any other questions? Councillor Rombout.
Can we have an update on the striking committee? Like, have we decided, is that happening today, or?
We have not had our striking committee meeting. I'm assuming we will convene when this meeting adjourns, and maybe in between this meeting and our integrity commissioner. If we could have the striking committee congregate. Any other questions? Councillor Bean? Not yet. All in favor of the PM committee meeting? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item number 14 now is a notice of motion at the May meeting regarding an expense column be added to the budget for 2020. Councillor Stark, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I move that we ask for and add an additional actual expense column from the most current year be added to the budget report, and I'll speak to it if we have a seconder.
Councillor Loosely, was you seconding that? Councillor Stark?
Yes, I was, it has been historical that we've always looked at, or I have always looked at, the actual expenses, and I'll give you an example of how it's pertinent. We had a recent example within the municipality that I'm from where we had a 2016 budgetary item that actually was being put forward for implementation during 2019, so 3 years difference. During that period, the budgeted amount of $50,000 had been put into a reserve because the work hadn't been accomplished. It seems to me that that would have been valuable information if it was a county issue that would have been helpful vis-a-vis the 2017 budget or 2018 budget at that time. The point is that historical information is important. Mr. Ennis, in giving his explanation during the last meeting, was asked, the comment was, the previous council didn't see value in having too much information. I found that was an astounding comment, not from his perspective, but from the previous council's perspective that too much information is something that you don't want to deal with. That, from my perspective, is a bit difficult to accept. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Loosely.
I'd like to request a recorded vote, please.
Okay. Any other comments? Is this, I guess this isn't a reconsideration because it was a decision made from a council more than 1 year ago. So this is it's going back to the previous. Councillor Bradley.
I just want to make one point. I don't have any difficulty with the motion, but I don't like the inference that, you know, the former councilor or former councilors rejected having too much information. I personally have been satisfied with the budget process, very satisfied over the last number of years. But I don't have any addition, you know, if people want more information, that's great. But previous councils came out with really good budgets here based on the information that they wanted and provided. And so again, I don't want that impression to be there, and I particularly thank Mr. Innes over the years for anything I've ever needed, I've gotten, as has County Council. So, but I will support the motion because I don't see anything wrong with that, as Councillor Stark's outlined.
Okay. Councillor Marriott, the Deputy Warden Marriott. Did
That's
that all
okay.
morning, sorry.
Call me anything but late for dinner. Thank you, Warden. I'd just like a comment from Mr. Innes to clarify his opinion on whether there's a need for this or not.
Mr. Innes? You're on.
There, my first comment will echo Councillor Bradley's from the standpoint that if this is the information that you want, then we have no problem in providing it. We have tried through the years that I have been here to concentrate the debate on the budget on the merits of the spending that is before you and not necessarily in relationship to what was being spent before. To comment to Councillor Stark's particular story before, in the budget that the county would set up, we would recognize that contribution from reserves and would have put it into the explanation and indicated that a particular project had funding and the funding was coming from a reserve to offset the cost in the current year, to make sure that that was clear and where it was coming from. It wasn't, I don't think the previous council was concerned about having too much information. They had indicated that they wanted to concentrate on understanding the reasons behind the spending that was being proposed, as opposed to just simply what the numbers were. In other words, just because we spent $100,000 on a particular line item the previous year does not necessarily mean we should be spending $100,000 or $98,000 or $102,000 in the current year. The critical question should be, why are you spending what you are spending, regardless of what was being spent in the previous year? And I believe that our budget documents have been geared towards giving you, as council, the information necessary to assess whether or not the funding that is being requested by staff makes sense within the context of the objectives that you have as councillors and the obligations of the county to provide services to the people of Lambton County. Now, yes, we can provide the actual, spending in the previous year compared to budget. As I indicated previously, that's one of the things that we do in our budget to actual report, and we always give you the fourth quarter before the budget is set. So it isn't a matter that this information has not been provided or has not been available. The question is simply, where do we present it? And in this case, what we would do is we would add the column to the budget report so that you are able to compare last year's budget, last year's actual, and current year's budget. So that is not a problem, and we're pleased to do whatever council directs us to do.
Any other questions or comments? I don't know what the procedure is for me to speak to a motion. Am I allowed, or do I have to step down from the chair? Councillor Bradley.
That we allow the warden to speak from his chair and not put you through that process.
Okay. All in favor of that? If that's a motion? That's carried. Thank you. I think I was around when we went to this updated style of budget, and I believe the discussion at that time was that we need to go back to a zero-based budget every year, and the staff would build the budget not on what last year's results was, not comparing it and that just what is needed for each division. And staff have done an excellent job of bringing us budgets. It's basically back to zero, and they develop what is needed to run the programs that are there for the council. So I will be not supporting this motion. I think the budget process has been excellent the last number of years. To have the information there will confuse, I think, issues of why why we're spending more and why we're not. The story that comes with the budget is complete. The story is there. Staff can answer all the questions. So that's just my comment. So thank you for allowing me to have that, my thoughts. Any other questions before I call the question? And it's a recorded vote, and we will start with the randomizer, Councillor White.
Councillor Arnold? No. Councillor Byrd? Councillor Bradley? Councillor Broad? Yes. Councillor Cook? No. Councillor Ferguson? No. Councillor Hand? No. Councillor Loosely? Yes. Councillor Marriott? No. Councillor Miller? No. Councillor Napper? No. Councillor Rombout? Councillor Stark? Yes. Councillor Veen? No. Councillor, or Warden Weaver?
No. The motion is defeated.
Motion is defeated.
Other business. Councillor Veen.
Thank you, Warden and members of County Council. Recently, I had the privilege of attending a training session for long-term care, and I just want to say I was totally impressed by your staff. I can't imagine the passion that came out of the people that were there, and I commend you and your staff for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? Seeing none, bylaws? Notice of bylaws?
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Marriott and seconded by Councillor Stark that bylaws 23 to 28 inclusively of 2019 as circulated be taken as read a first and second time.
All in favor? It's carried.
It is moved by Councillor Stark and seconded by Councillor Marriott that bylaws 23 to 28 inclusively of 2019 as circulated be taken as read a third and final time.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I believe we're at adjournment. We'll meet and we'll notice that just a note on the bottom, we have our Integrity Commissioner coming in now, sitting at the back, but we will take a 5-minute environmental break before we start.